Oh, there we are.
Here we are. Hi, Cynthia. Welcome to Struggle to Strength.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm so glad to have you. I'm just looking. So I'm getting a notice that an error occurred. Let's see. I hit go live again. Okay. Welcome, Cynthia, to Struggle to Strength. Take two.
I think it's still going. So from my end, it looked like it was still live.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Um, so I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Mary Beth Simone, and I'm the founder of Niche Partnership Consulting. My business started as a result of a personal struggle that I turned into a strength through my business. And through this platform, I like to highlight the struggles that my clients and collaborators have experienced and the strengths that have resulted from them. So today I welcome Cynthia Oswald to the show. Cynthia, thank you so much for being a guest.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. Uh,
Yes. So your topic today is how you found purpose in your passion.
yes, it's been an evolution for sure, but it's something that I've spent a lot of time in the last couple years reflecting on and dissecting it down into kind of a way that I could share with other people because I think there's a lot of benefit to the process I went through.
Yeah, and I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. So Kim Davis is on, another client of mine, and so she was excited to hear your story. I think a lot of times people talk about not being sure what their passion is, but for you, there's no shortage of passions.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. And also, it's still like I think the struggle can be deciding which thing to focus on when that's your issue because I feel like that was one of the things I had to figure out was where to put my energy. Uh,
Yeah, and so we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. So before we get started, can you just share with us a little bit about your background and about your business?
Sure. So I'm an artist and designer. I live just outside of Phoenixville, which is near Philadelphia. I have a passion for education. My business is two-sided. I love to teach and I love to learn. I've most recently received my MFA in communication design. And really, what it comes down to is I've always had a deep appreciation for the beauty of my surroundings. So, whether it be the way a room looks or feels, or how a brand is translated through its visuals, this has led me to a multifaceted career where I help clients bring to life their own creative hopes and goals and ideas through branding, print, and web design. And then I also create beautiful fine art and illustrations and surface patterns for the home. So, just to kind of bring that feeling back into the home as well. And
I noticed one of your pieces of art over my
I did.
shoulder.
I actually was going to say something, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah, he's like, oh, I see one of my minis. I'm working on the next series right now, and I'm having so much fun.
I love the minis. They're so accessible and just such a great gift and for yourself or for others.
Thank you for buying one and being a collector. That was really
Yeah, I love it. And so I think that your background is so interesting, the work that you do with entrepreneurs, business owners, and then the work that you do as an artist. And that's pretty much how we met. So when I was working on uh, creating my business before I had opened the doors, you were recommended to me by a mutual business owner and friend to work with you to create my marketing materials because I knew that I was going to need some things, brochures and business cards and all of that kind of stuff to get that together, and which beautifully brought together all of your talents.
yeah, that was a really fun project. I
Yeah.
love being able to take a lot of information and organize it in a beautiful way and kind of make it all cohesive. And I feel like that definitely was the case with your brand when you were starting out too.
Yeah, and I feel like it was so great how you were able to dive into it and understand it because what I do is a little uncommon. Yeah, so yeah, that was great. I
Yeah.
think that you made it more accessible through the imagery and everything.
Oh, well, thank you. It was
Yeah.
fun to work on your projects.
Yeah, so could you take us back, Cynthia, to 2013 and describe for us the restlessness that you were experiencing personally and professionally?
Sure. So I had just come out of well, not just, but in the last year, a really bad relationship where we were about to get married. I was engaged, really excited about all the things. And I just had this kind of prophetic dreams. And dreams are a big thing for me. Like they definitely are telling me, they always try to tell me something. And the dream kind of unfolded and I realized like this is not the right situation for me. And it just, things kept falling into place and I figured out I was saved that this was not the right relationship for me and wasn't the right path forward. And so got out of the relationship and pretty soon after was able to kind of like take a hard look at where I was and realize that just, maybe the relationship was a mask, but really where I was with work and everything is not where I was meant to be. I just had like a genuine feeling of like restlessness and not being content. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. That the dream kind of initiated this awakening and realization that things
yeah,
were not the way.
actually, it's funny because the dream was what taught me that kind of opened up a can of worms in terms of my relationship. And I won't get into the details of that, but I also had another dream that was a reoccurring dream around the same time that I had two sides of a house, which I did live in a twin at the time, but it wasn't like, how dreams are. It doesn't look exactly like it is in reality. So, in the one side of the house, I would always be welcoming people into my house and I'd say, come on in. And then I'd say, come see this other side. It was like, amazing, Mary Beth. The other side of the house had like everything in order and like beautiful rooms full of like kids' toys. And then there's like this master suite and awesome bathroom. And I was like in the dream, and I always say, like, I don't know why I don't like rent this out or do something with it. And it was always some version of that dream. And it was basically just telling me that I was not like using a huge part of myself that was just going unused. So
That is so interesting.
and it didn't stop until it was like I'd wake up and I'd be like, what does that mean? And like hindsight, I look back and I'm like, duh. But it's just funny how, yeah,
Right.
subconscious tries to tell us like when things aren't right.
Yeah, and how challenging it is to see what the meaning is when you're right in the middle of it.
Right. Like I think a big thing for me is layers, like just realizing that something's not going to always be just turn the light on or turning it off. It's layers of kind of just taking one foot in front of the other and stepping forward and, making small changes.
Yeah, and that sounds a lot like your artwork too. The way.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Everything, I swear, like my whole process of creating artwork and like the subject matter and just all of it, it definitely parallels life and work.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned when we were preparing for this episode that you embrace life more fully by taking a deep dive into your past. Can you share with us some examples of what that deep dive looked like?
Sure. So when I figured all of this out, I just kind of went right into reading. I just searched, I was just searching for what do I do? How do I get where I can really feel more content? And I read a ton of books, but one of the books I read during that time was called What You're Really Meant to Do by Robert Stephen Kaplan. And honestly, I don't remember a ton of the book other than this one key takeaway, which was to reflect on times in your life when you felt most at peace or happy, not necessarily happy, but like if you can look back at your life and just think about the memories you held as a child or really at any stage that you were just most lit up and you were so excited. And then kind of dissect those memories for like, what's the feeling that you were having? What were you doing? Um, you know, there's so much value in evaluating those memories because you can really kind of see what lights you up and like your why if it's hard to name that. So I sat with those questions for a long time before, I just let the memories come to me over time. And they were interesting ones. It was like spending a ton of time with my elderly neighbor and, him teaching me certain things, or making jam with my mom, just little things. And a lot of, I learned that, collaborating was a big thing for me. So, being an artist where I'm solely working in my studio all the time isn't necessarily something that I could do 100%, but I could definitely spend some time doing that. But like learning that collaborating is a core value of mine meant that, yes, I do need to be working with other business owners alongside my own creative practice. So yeah, lots of little, I'd say the focusing on those memories really helped me to figure out what like lights me up.
I love that question too. I feel like that's something that's worthwhile for any of us to consider at a time when we feel stuck or unsure of like how to move forward.
I have to ask myself that even now too, like, cause I feel like it never ends, right? You get to a new level and like sometimes it's hard to celebrate how far you've come, um but at the same time, like looking back at that question and saying, okay, well, what's lit me up in the last year? Like, how can I get more of that into my life?
Yeah.
So that's what I do, like run that filter. I try to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to keep that in mind because I'm kind of struggling with my goals for next year. And I'm like debating a couple different options, but I think I'll use that question to help me hone in on where I really want to go.
Yeah, another one which I think you would totally appreciate was given to me by Jaharn. She's an art licensing agent based out of the UK. She asked me, I hired her to look at my portfolio last year, and she asked me, what do I want to be remembered for, like when I'm long gone, And I think that's like another really good one to help in decision making process in terms of
That's
what you
so
should
funny.
focus.
As you're saying that question, my mind was like, oh, I should definitely do this. This one, I'm like, okay, that's where I should go.
Yeah, yeah, it's just spending the time to think about it. That's the hard thing too. Sometimes
Yeah,
is to set aside the time.
right, right. Instead of just jumping into the decision, like to actually think about it.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile. So what was your process? So that's like how you were evaluating the past and the influences. And what was your process for creating your vision for moving forward?
So it was definitely not as streamlined as what I share with people today, but I did just spend a lot of time self-reflecting and trying to find signs of like, this is the right direction, this is the wrong direction. Kind of what lights me up definitely was a filter. I ended up at a part-time job with Kimberton Whole Foods, which Terry, is the person who introduced the two of us. And they at Kimberton Whole Foods are amazing. They really encouraged their employees to like embrace their strengths. And so I was working there part time and was able to kind of focus on my strengths within their organization, and then also in my own personal business. So the process that I went through during that stage was just kind of figuring out, okay, what's the subject matter of what I'm interested in, because you have your skills and you can be really good at something, but you might not enjoy it. I forget who did this example. I want to say it was James Clear from Atomic Habits, but there's an example somewhere of like someone who was like really good at plunging the toilet. Like the guy like cleaned the toilet and plunged the toilet, and the next week they're like, "You were so good at that. Like, can you do that again?" And it's an extreme example, but it's like so perfect. It so perfectly illustrates like, don't do something that you're good at if you don't want to be doing it. And so that was a hard one for me because I love to like help people and feel like I'm, solving problems. And so I would sometimes solve problems that like I'm really not meant to be solving because it doesn't light me up. So yeah, definitely identifying the passions And then also marrying my skill sets with what interests me is like the next step I'd say I went through.
That's great.
Yeah, and then selecting a medium. So, I mean, this is like, in my case, it could be an art medium, but it's really not just art. It could be, I use the computer a lot for it's just any kind of tool. So, in your case, it could be the coursework that you're creating, the videos that you share, like all that content that you're sharing with people. That's like the medium in which you're sharing things. So figuring out what the mediums are that I'm going to focus on, and I think that can be really hard as well. And so I think another thing I had to learn was just to embrace every part of myself and not try to figure it all out really quickly, and just take my time and then just see what sticks. So it's not something that happens overnight, for sure. I mean, some people it does, but not for me.
Yeah, yeah. And there's such pressure to niche down. And I when I look at your business, I just think of your work as so broad, like
Right.
specific but broad.
It's funny because it is specific and broad at the same time. I always feel that pressure of like, I still need to niche down, even though I kind of rebel against it, because I think that that's not right for everyone. Like, some people, it makes a lot of sense, but some people, their unique experience that they're providing might not actually be about niching down. It might be like, how I can work with business owners one-on-one ends up benefiting them, that I can take them on a journey that's not so specific, so they can get a lot of different information and ideas in terms of how they're going to communicate through their visuals in a very broad way, but it's also narrow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Kind of
does.
hard
It
to
makes total sense to me since I've gone through the process with you. And yeah, that's for sure. And it definitely helps with the communication aspects and content creation and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, did you let people who were close to you know that you were going through this journey, that you were doing this personal exploration, or did you keep that private?
I mean, some of it was really obvious because the dismantling part of, like, my relationship ended. I did lose some friendships around that time that were really hard for me, that we've since kind of reconnected. But it was like, in my mind, it was definitely divine intervention. Like, things just started unraveling, and there was no changing that. So yes, I went through a lot of shedding of relationships, and that was just the only way in order to make big changes, because otherwise my habits were not going to align with the future vision that I had. And I think that was only possible through that. But definitely did share. I remember one time I was so lit up about this idea I had, and I was talking to an old friend about it, and I think she might have thought I was crazy because I was so excited about what I was going to do. And then I just realized I am kind of a nerd, and that's okay. I just need to find other nerds to, like, be excited about these things I'm passionate about, and don't, just embrace that nerdy side.
Great, great. Because what we love is not for everyone,
Not for everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Right.
Um, so let's see. So if you were to meet someone who was going through a similar situation, feeling like they're not on the right path, personally and professionally, what type of advice would you give them?
Well, one of the things that I love about working with people is being able to shine light on their strengths. So I think I would just ask a lot of questions until I heard, like, what the things are that light them up. And then I would, like, kind of just go into that even further, like, just asking. I think it would just be through a series of questions. But if I were to give them advice, like, after all the questions, it would just be to really embrace those things that the every part of themselves, the parts that are maybe odd to other people, or um, I guess, like I was saying, I just embrace my inner nerd. But, like, we all have those things that we're super insecure about. And I think it's just embracing them and just saying, like, this is who I am. It's okay if other people don't like that, you know, and
Right.
just following it and trusting your instincts. Like I think there is some talk against that, but I really think that learning to trust your instincts is huge when it comes to being a business owner, and and knowing that you actually have all the right answers. And your body will tell you. One of the things that happened when I quit my job, within 6 months, I had the worst back pain before I quit, the back pain completely subsided. So anytime I have like a little inkling of back pain, I'm like, okay, something's off.
Yeah, yeah. And energetically, that's very much aligned with your work and the way that you support yourself. And so that's interesting that
Mhm.
you experience that. Not uncommon.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure we all kind of have some cues that our body gives us that are telling us is not the right thing for you,
yeah, yeah.
or it is the right thing, you know?
Right.
But trusting that is, I think, a hard thing. Some people are natural at it. I was not natural for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that maybe we're good at it when we're little and then we grow out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's like as an adult, it's important to get in touch with it again.
Yeah.
So can we switch gears just for a minute and talk about your contingency plan process? So we work together to create your personal contingency plan. And I always like to ask people if it created any changes or revelations after the fact, after you had it in place.
I mean, it just like the back pain subsided, the tabs in my brain that were open due to just being like kind of in a panic of like, I don't know what will happen if this happens, or, you know, they just disappeared. And so I was able to more fully be present in every moment because I wasn't as worried about if this, then that, you know? So just going through that process definitely helped both myself and my husband know like we had so many things that were unanswered, and it just cleared up pretty much everything in terms of what if this happens, and just having everything together and organized. It seems like something you should just be able to do, but it's not something that's natural for us. It was huge, and now we take it for granted now because we're like, oh, we just go to our book or go to our documents, or, you know, and we just have it all in place. But it was a huge weight lifted off my chest for sure.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. And yeah, I think before I got into this business, I thought that I was really organized. But when I needed to do it for my friend, that's when I realized just being organized is not enough.
Yeah, that's I'm sure you're still more organized than we were about it, but and probably like you know, we have to go through it again. We're at the point right now where we have to go through it again. But it definitely helped. It also makes me feel better in client conversations because I'm telling them, like, if something were to happen to me, this is why I make this decision from the start so that you have the power to do it. And then also like giving them access to their files and things like that. So it's just having more conscious conversations around, like, you know, yes, you're working with me and I am a small business owner, but, you know, I have these things set in place so that if something were to happen to me, you're going to be okay. You know, you
That's
don't
great.
need me.
Yeah, it's great to have that conversation with your clients because that might be something that they feel uncomfortable asking. So, as a business owner, it's great that you bring it up.
Yeah, I always am like, if I get hit by a bus, that like really lightens the mood for
Right,
everybody.
right. The old hit by the bus.
Yeah.
Um, and now let's talk a little bit about your business. What are you focused on now? And is there anything that you are promoting in your business?
So, yeah, I just actually had a call with my team this morning about my quarter 4 planning, and we are promoting both sides of my business. I'm jumping back into 25 days of minis. I'm going to be launching there's one pre-launch available September 28th. So this is like a mini watercolor painting. And these paintings, this year I'm doing Field of Dreams is going to be the theme for that. It's all about the feeling of like how the hopefulness and possibility you get when you look out over like a vast landscape. And I know that's true for everyone because even Leona was like, we were up on the 3rd floor of a building and she was looking out and she's like, I can see the whole world. And like, it got me so excited because I'm like, yes, that feeling that she's experiencing, we all feel that. So that's what the minis are about. And then I'm also, for my branding business, I'm working on a course for Skillshare that's all about curating your brand for small business owners and creatives, where I walk them through the process of figuring out what kind of content to share, what communication platforms to use, even design tools that anyone can use. You don't have to be a designer. So that my whole thinking on how to bridge the gap between kind of where you are and your goals, and then bringing that to life in your business visually. So it's really going to be a great tool, and I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah,
When
that's
do you think that'll be ready?
my goal is by the end of this month, but it might be early October. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to follow along, you could just search my name on Skillshare. But then also I'll be posting about it on Instagram, and it'll be on my website and such.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And um, can you just share with us who is your ideal client when it comes to like the entrepreneur side?
So definitely, I would say I work with marketing teams, small business owners like solopreneurs, and creatives. So those are like the three. Those are broad, but all of them, maybe the things that they'd have in common is that they are in need of someone to help. Kind of like a bird's eye view of bringing all of their content strategy together in a visual way. And so I do like people. I like to work with people who are passionate about what they do, because I can relate to that, and it also gets me excited to help them to shine light on that. So, but that can be in a lot of different areas. I end up working with people who are environmentally minded a lot, as well as ethically based or sourced food and things like that. So farming, environment, and creatives are like kind of the areas that I work with, but there can be a lot that falls underneath those buckets.
Awesome. And then what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So definitely I would say I'm most active on Instagram, but if you wanted to get in touch with me, my website is there's lots of ways to get in touch with me. You can connect with me via email on my website. So just cynthiaoswald.com. And I have two Instagram pages. So one is at Curate Your Brand, and the other one is at Cynthia Oswald Design. So the one that's for the fine art side is the Cynthia Oswald Design, and the one that's more for working directly with other entrepreneurs is the Curate Your Brand Instagram.
Okay, great. I'll put all of those links in the comments on LinkedIn so that people can access that easily.
Great. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks, Cynthia, for your time, and thanks for giving us some insights into your process of, embracing all sides of yourself and bringing that to light in your business.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye.